absolute favorite things about manga is that you never know where you're going to end up when you open up that cover and dive into those pages. And oftentimes, the places you don't expect to wind up are the ones you find the most enthralling. That was precisely my experience with Aki Irie's Go With the Clouds, North by Northwest. Having read another of Irie's manga called Ron in the Grey World via scans years back, I was quite surprised and overall pretty thrilled to see more of her manga making its way to the West, thanks to Viz Media for releasing Ron in the Grey World, and Vertical for releasing Go With the Clouds, North by Northwest. The manga follows a 17-year-old named Kei Miyama, who's this lad who's living in Iceland with his grandfather. He passes the time talking to cars, shying away from cute girls, and solving crimes with his own little stint as a private detective. One case has him reuniting this estranged couple through their mutual love of a dog, while another brings a woman together with a mysterious stranger that she'd fallen head over heels with instantly. When Kei is unable to reach his aunt, uncle, and his brother Michitaka, who are living back in Japan, he fears something is amiss and uproots his grandfather on a journey back to Japan to find out just might what have happened. Funny enough, after coming back to Japan and doing all this searching, he finds out that an accident actually prompted his brother Michitaka to head to Iceland to look for him. Back in Iceland, Kei calls out this Japanese detective who had been tailing him for quite some time, in hopes of finding answers to Michitaka's whereabouts, pinning what was thought to be an accident entirely on Michitaka's shoulders. Now, obviously, Kei is not going to believe this. He doesn't think that his brother could do something so heinous. I'm not going to say what it is because it spoils a pretty big part of the manga. And Kei basically ignores it all entirely until his newfound friend Lilia confides that her power tells her that Michitaka might not be all too innocent. Everything from the winding roads, the cobblestone city streets, the open fields, it all just kind of ties the setting of this manga together really well, making it feel less like a mystery and human drama, and more like a beautiful romp through this absolutely gorgeous fantasy world. Even the various houses and buildings that the story takes us through, as well as Lilia's high-end fashion, and I guess Kei's contrastingly low-end fashion, if you can call it that, feel refreshing and unique in their own right. Between the gorgeous landscapes, talking to cars and the private investigating, the trips back to Japan and all that, the real meat and potatoes of Go With the Clouds North by Northwest is in its character. Whether it's Kei's broody angst or his grandfather's boisterous romanticism, the interactions between characters, main and otherwise, are rather engrossing and flat out just interesting to read. Even the characters that we only meet for just a page or two manage to stick out in a way that makes us hope to see them again one day soon. Now, aside from the characters, what I personally enjoyed the most is the sort of mystery within a mystery that came along with this series. While the main focus eventually hones in on what happened with Michitaka and why he ended up coming from Japan to Iceland and what happened with this accident, what I was drawn to immediately were these unique, quirky little powers that various characters in the series seem to have. Like, Kei can talk to cars, his grandfather has this mysterious way with birds, and Lilia can seemingly pick a lie out of a language she can't even understand. So while I'm tapping my foot and patiently waiting for Volume 2 and onward to come out so I can read it and put them up on that shelf, a huge part of me wonders just where these powers came from and what role they're going to have in the future. Now, not to imply I have a hard time getting into manga. If I do, it's usually a sign that I'm not going to enjoy it. But I was really surprised how fast I was drawn into this series. I think by the end of the first few pages, it was kind of something like this. Alright, that's cool. One thing I didn't particularly like about this manga was how quickly the story progressed. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, because there are manga who drag their story on longer than they need to. But the way that the manga kind of went from Iceland to Japan, then back to Iceland, as well as the whereabouts of Michitaka being solved almost instantly, seemed a bit too rushed and, quite honestly, a little too convenient. I was also really enjoying the episodic nature of the first few chapters where it was exploring, Kei's human relationships and his investigation job. I felt that was probably the stronger point of the volume, but given the setup near the end, I think that's probably not the case going forward. Still, it'd be nice to get back to that format at some point in the future, because character arcs explored through self-contained stories tends to be a really strong storytelling technique in Japanese manga and other Japanese media as well, like anime and drama. As always, I urge you guys to support legal manga and support publishers, support manga-ka, so we can continue to get great series like Go With the Clouds North by Northwest here in the West and other places that like manga, I suppose. Like most manga, you can pick this up in various book and comic shops, as well as various online retailers, many of which I will link in the description below. You can also check out Volume 2 of Go With the Clouds North by Northwest coming August 20th, thanks to Vertical Link. So while you wait for that, you can either grab a plane ticket, head over to Iceland, and pretend you can talk to your cheap, crappy rental car, or you could just go to your store and pick up Go With the Clouds North by Northwest Volume 1. The latter is the cheapest option, but I will leave that up to your discretion. I'm sure you'll make the right choice. Until next time, folks, happy reading.